chromatic scale is equal rights. It includes the blacks as well as the whites, and they have equal status in the chromatic scale, okay? And in fact, they are equal distance apart. So it's the same distance as this. Notice there's no black note in between. This interval between here and here, and by interval I mean distance between, mathematically, between the range of frequencies, right, is the same as this, Isn't that the Pink Panther? So da 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 da, that interval for Elise, right? This interval of a chromatic step is not 8, okay? This is actually, if you say this is 1, this is a second, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it is the 13th note. But the way I think is useful to think of is not this is 1 and this is 13, but that this is 0, and that the intervals are the magic here. This is the secret to understanding music, is intervals, okay? The interval is 1. The interval is 2 chromatic steps, 3 chromatic steps, 4 chromatic steps, 5 chromatic steps, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chromatic steps, okay? So this interval that we call the octave is the most harmonious. The next most harmonious is this interval, 3 to 2, mathematically. And by consequence, if you look at the octaves as equivalent, then this interval from here to here is also harmonious. And that interval, which on a major scale we'd call a fourth, can also be here. So we have most harmonious, next harmonious, next harmonious. The next one after that, which I believe is a 5 to 6 ratio, don't hold me to that, is here, and then the inversion of that, right? Or the 6th, and the inversion of that, okay? So we have fifths and their inversion, fourths. We have thirds and their inversions, sixths, okay? And these are considered the most harmonious. These harmonies were so people could sing together and be and the music sounded sweeter and sounded smoother. And it's because they had their beats combined in ways that were had mathematical ratios. And the piano is less precise in these tunings. With the voice you can get to what's called just intonation and be very precise, and the harmonies are, they're very refined. So early church music, they sing not in this kind of key, but in a just intonation, a just tuning that is exactly perfect. But the piano has been rearranged and modified slightly so that these distances are exactly the same, and so that we can move laterally into different keys without having to retune everything. That's called equal temperament or well-tempered clavier. That was around Bach's time, and he explored that. But right now, I want you to get the notion of intervals having lesser or greater degree of consonance or dissonance. So, consonants. Most consonant, next most consonant, next most consonant, next most consonant, next most consonant, and then the inversions of those, right? Now, those relationships are the most constant. The next extrapolation of that led to this interval, which is not as constant as this, right? This is dissonant. And then the inversion of that, also dissonant, right? But there is a more dissonant relationship from here to here. Very dissonant. And then this relationship, that inversion is also very dissonant. So dissonance goes from least dissonant but dissonant to more dissonant to, and it's a toss-up between this and whether this is the most dissonant, but this is exactly in half. If you cut those 12 notes exactly in half into 6 half steps, you get this, which is considered very dissonant. I think that is more dissonant, but this is certainly up there, okay? Put that in there. Why are these so dissonant? This is a case where, and it's very interesting in both music and in life, where the closer things are, the more off they are. So, unless you're in unison, right? So being in unison, ba is great. But if you're just a little bit off, it's really not great, okay? And we know that, sometimes we're with people and in close proximity, we just can't take it. But if we move away, even a little bit, okay, that's a little better, but okay, that's fine. And so when I'm with, with my wife, I'm trying to be in harmony with her, right? But sometimes we'll get here, right? And either she's got to move up to get in harmony with me, or I've got to move down to get in harmony with her, right? I've got to find that, or we've got to move together. We just got to shift each. Okay? The point is that certain notes are, intervals rather, are dissonant. So let's look again at the 12-ness, all right? The 5 and the 7, all right? And that scale and those half steps have different levels of consonance and dissonance. So we start with the most consonant, 12 half steps up, right? The next is 7 half steps up. Again, this being 0, right? The next 5, right? The next 4, the next 9, right? And then on the consonant scale, this is more dissonant, but it's still considered consonant. Okay, that's 3 half steps up, right? And then, 8 half steps up is considered consonant, but more on the dissonant side. Okay, a minor 6, we might call this, all right? And then in the dissonant side, 2 half steps or 10 half steps, right? And then we have 1 half step or 11 half steps, and then we have 6. Okay? So this is our another part of our musical alphabet. We talked about A through G as being the musical alphabet, but the real alphabet that really matters is the consonants and dissonant alphabet of intervals. And in that alphabet of intervals, you have the unison is 1, octave is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going down in consonants, okay? And then, okay, and then finally to the dissonance. Okay, so this dissonant range, and probably this is somewhere between this and this, right? So it's probably, in any case, these are all considered dissonance, and I want you to think of dissonance and consonance in terms of spices. So you need spice, and some people like foods really salty, some people like the foods really spicy, other people like just a trace of it. Some people don't like it at all and they want very bland things, and we need a mixture, and in different contexts, right? Sweet and sour, right? You need a little bit of spice with a little bit of consonance, right? So a minor chord is a little bit of that. It's a little more dissonant there, but it's consonant here and it's consonant here, right? So this mixture of consonance and dissonance intervals and then what we call a seventh chord, right? It's got harmony, and then a dissonance from here to here, right? So that gives it a little flavor, okay? A different flavor than, okay? So I want you to think of the real useful musical alphabet is the alphabet of consonants and dissonants, and that alphabet is of intervals. And then we stack intervals into what we call chords. Okay, and what I just did, calling that a seventh chord, I went up thirds, and then went one more third, and made that not quite as consonant as this. So really consonant, a little less consonant, a little less consonant, actually even dissonant. A little bit of flavor there, right? Okay. So these are this is the alphabet that I really wanted to share with you, and the concept of there are 12 notes from one octave to the next. Right? We call it an octave because of the major scale, but there's really 13 notes if we repeat the note, and I call them 12 half steps or 12 chromatic steps. And so I call this 0, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that relationship is not just C to C. It's from here to here, here to here. So when I have a consonant like this, which is 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, I can build that from any other note. 1, 2, 3, 4. From here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that begins to free me up to find consonant relationships and dissonant relationships with absolute precision. If I know that the 7 half steps up and the 5 half steps up are consonant, and that the 4 half steps up are consonant, and that the 9 half steps up are consonant, if I know those ratios, and I know that the 3 is a little bit less, if I get that order of consonants and dissonance intervals in my head, then I can find harmonies and I can find dissonances wherever the melody leads me. And this is where you see jazz musicians just explode with creativity, because they are unconstrained by conventional scales. Okay? So that's what I mainly wanted to get across to you. And I'm going to share with you one other concept that I found just blew my mind, from how rich the major scales really are and why they've been around for so long. And I'm going to share that in my next lesson.